You're spending all this time building out pages on your website for SEO, adding content, creating links and links from other providers back to your website to create this whole network. But have you ever wondered who owns your website? Well, owning a website is a lot like owning a house. And there are various different aspects that you either own or you lease, and some it's okay to lease. Other things you certainly want to own. Hi guys, I'm Stu Hill with CHEM.digital. Today I'm going to break down to you who owns your real estate website bit by bit. So to start with, the domain name. Nobody owns a domain name, so it's okay that you don't own yours. It's not actually possible to own a domain name. You just lease the domain names that have been issued through a worldwide consortium, and everybody leases their domain name for a specific period of time. In this case, leasing is as good as ownership, but in order to protect your asset, because it's very easy to get a domain name hijacked, if somebody was to find out your password, for example, to your GoDaddy account, they could make transfers, they could do anything that they want to that. It's imperative that you use two-factor authentication and take advantage of all of the security measures that you can. Use strong passwords, use any other security options that your domain name registrar provides, and then lock that username and password in a safe. Don't let anybody know of that. You can issue control of a DNS, of a domain name, the DNS settings as they're called on the domain name. You can issue control of those. When we build a website, we ask for what's called delegate control, where we can't delete the domain name. We can't do make any account changes, but we can make the changes to the settings of the domain name, which is obviously important for a web design company or IT company to be able to handle for you. If you have a real estate website that's provided by a template provider, then one of the other things you're likely not going to own is the code base. Now, I'm sure you've heard of code. Code is what websites run on. There are various different bits of code, whether it's a plugin, whether it's the platform. Unless you sat down or an employee of yours sat down and typed that code out from scratch without plagiarizing from anywhere else, that code is likely not yours. Now, most code on the internet is open source or it's licensed. So you have there are a couple of different places that can come from. There's free plugins that's licensed for general use. There's other sort of terms and that kind of apply to how the code is used, but generally accepted sort of, WordPress, let's say, open source software, free for use, and then there are some sort of paid add-ons. Any customized code that deviates from the open source code is the property of the person that edited it. So as with content, the person that wrote it is the person that owns it, and then express permission has to be granted in order for somebody else to use it. So in the case of, let's say, a template website provider, they may put their system together using WordPress. They may customize some code so they can have 1,000 websites on that system. Problem with that is that they then own that portion of the code. They may not give you that portion of the code if they're providing buyer and seller content, for example, or the general sort of structure in the background. So you might have like a customized homepage, as in like the case with Agent Image, for example. They're semi-custom websites, as they're called. You have a customized homepage, but the back end of the site is just a template, and all of that is proprietary to them. In other cases, they may not be able or willing to export the code base from their platform where they have 1,000 sites running into an independent website. And, none of these things are a big deal when you have a brand new website. But if you're adding content, you're writing content, you're investing in content, and whether the content is video, images, text, whatever it may be, as you're growing this site, they all have links. So the CHEM.digital / whatever that may be, blog / something else. In the case of different systems, you may see like a .php at the end of that. Well, WordPress doesn't use .php. So if you were to, in the URL, so if you were to move that website from there to a WordPress site, then it's a big problem, because you've got to do a redirect on every single one of those URLs. Otherwise, all of your efforts into SEO are for naught. The links are going to change unless that's updated. I'm sorry for stammering. I'm just trying to get my words out here. Unless you redirect all of those, everything that you've done in the terms of SEO is for nothing. And what if that provider goes out of business? There are so many different factors that go into this, that ownership is just the key to success. HP own their website, Dell own their website, Zillow own their website, Compass own their website, Keller Williams own their website. There's a reason for this. And that's because if you own it, you can do what you want to it, and nobody else has control over it. If you lease it, the leasing company can decide that they're no longer going to continue supporting the website. They can decide that they're going to shut you down and give you a date for that. So your website only exists up until the point of the next renewal. Big problem when you own a business. So your website should be an asset. You should own the code base. If you can get it off now, I mean, you don't own the design. So, they don't own the design, and nobody owns the sort of design. So the code is what creates the design. And a design in the terms of a website is a utility. There's a header, a footer, a bit in the middle. And if you start from scratch, you can copy a website to emulate the look and feel without an issue, because you're not copying their proprietary code. Now, if you go view source in the browser, if you've seen that before, that gives you the web page source. It's not going to give you the whole, in a lot of these days, it's not going to give you enough to rebuild the website. But if you took the code, that's a no-no. If you look at the design and say, okay, well, I just want to rebuild my website to look like this. We've got to take 100 pages of content and move that over. Yeah, that's a pain. But if it was 1,000 pages of content, then that's not a pain. That's a problem. So owning the code base, as far as you can. You've got your install of WordPress. You've got any customizations to that. You've got all of your plugins that goes alongside. The next thing to consider is the server. So it used to be that we had web servers, or we'd have a real estate office, and they would host their website with a server at their location. Nobody does that anymore. We use cloud services now. So the big ones: Amazon Web Services, owned by Amazon; Google Cloud Services, owned by Google; and Microsoft Azure, Azure, owned by Microsoft. So those guys lease out their hardware in a virtual environment. There's a many advantages of this. Number one, if a server goes down, it's the weekend, or it goes offline for somewhere, you've got to physically go to the machine if I don't know, power supply went out, or the electric or something went wrong with it there, or your building burnt down and your server's now gone up in flames with it. None of that is an issue with cloud services. We have apps on our phone. We can just restart a server. We can log into the server's command line and issue commands to it to fix little issues if they come up. Not that they do. You're guaranteed uptime with these guys. It's the simplest solution there is. And cost-wise, Amazon we like because they offer a free tier. That's free for the first year. Following that, it can be less than $10 a month for a server. It's not complicated. It's a simple web server that hosts a WordPress website. There's the server part of it that provides the pages, and then there's the database, a MySQL database in the back end that provides the content and whatnot, and tells it where the images are located. And when somebody visits the page, it puts all of that together. We use a caching system as well that builds all of the pages ahead of time, so it's lightning fast for somebody that comes to the website. WordPress isn't slow. There are some negatives, call them rumors, but there are some misconceptions, I guess, about WordPress, but WordPress sites run about 40% of the internet, if not more now. And the advantages of plugins is that they are all provided by third-party vendors. So You're not having to update things. The site will update itself. In the latest version of WordPress, they just put an automatic update feature in place that just keeps all your plugins up to date automatically without an issue. If we have some custom code, we can turn that stuff off. But the idea of the server is that it's in your name. Right, it's virtual, but it's just an account like the domain name. So it's in your name. If we move a website onto that, we have a blank WordPress instance that's then placed. We do a backup of your website. We do a restore of it onto the server. Firing up the server itself takes about a minute. Loading the website, depending on the size of the file that we're transferring, that can be done in about another 5 to 10 minutes. It is an easy process to get another server fired up. In the case of larger sites, we might use redundancy. So we might have a couple of servers or a couple of different versions of the website, depending on if you've got multiple offices or we've got multiple websites running for whatever the marketing play might be there. But the fact that you don't own the server, that's not a big deal. It's what's on the server that you want to own. And that brings me to content, which is any text, any images, any things you've written, backlinks to that content. As I mentioned, if you have somebody on their website, insurance agent, list back to your real estate website, not necessarily the johnsmith.com, but if they're linking to some special page, insurance.php or insurance.html in a date, in any of those formats, or /something/insurance, or the location of an image, any of these things. Those links will get broken if you move. So you don't want to ever move websites. It's great to pop something up. The template systems are okay. If you need a website, you're not working on content, you're not generating leads, you're not generating backlinks, you're not really doing any of the things that you in the way of digital marketing. That brings me to social posts. If you've posted on social media a link back to an article on your website, it's not going to work unless a redirect's put in there. Now, when we build a site, we do take all of these things into consideration, and we can help you move before it goes too far. If SEO or social media are on the list of things that you want to improve or continue to tackle or beat your competition in, which goes back to improvement, because it is an ever ongoing task, SEO and social media. You're constantly publishing content. You're in the form of posts. You're constantly improving your SEO by looking at what the competitors are doing. There's always somebody out there looking to outrank you in the market. So we're looking at other agents that are within that specific market. All of these things, we can take your site before it goes too far in the wrong direction and take those, 100 pages, 500 pages, whatever you've got, or ditch what you've got because it's not working for you and build something that's going to last forever, that you will never have to change because it's yours. You owned it. That lessor is never going to kick you out. And everything that you have is proprietary. You can customize it to the nth degree. You can add on. You own everything down to the foundation and the mineral rights underneath it. So anyway, if you want to talk about your website and what parts you own, whether some of the content, how you would migrate it, we can schedule a 30-minute consultation with you, sit down with my team, discuss your needs and goals, and see how we can help you in that regard. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Schedule that free consultation just to ask some questions. Hit us up in the live chat on our website, CHEM.digital. However you want to get a hold of us, always happy to help. Thanks very much. I'll be back soon.